Hi everyone, it's good to have you around again on Smart Lesson Nigeria online virtual lesson for today with your regular host, Mr. Otaibe. Thank you so much for being present in the lesson. Your presence is sweet and appreciated. The subject is English and the theme of English is grammar, and the topic is types of nouns. Remember, we've had a lesson on parts of speech in which we saw that nouns form one part of speech that exists in English, others being pronouns, verbs, adverbs, in fact the 9 of them. And so we are concentrating on one of these parts of speech, talking of nouns, and in the focus we want to look at the types that exist and of course the functions now play in sentences. And so again, the lesson topic is types of nouns. And so let's kick off right away as we engage the introduction of the lesson that will remind us of what nouns are, and then usher us into the classification and theory. And so let's see what we have on the introductory slide. Like you can see on this slide, nouns are names of people, animals, places, things, times, ideas, and concepts. Yes, we learnt of this in the grammar lesson before this, that words that are names of people, animals, places, things, times, ideas, and concepts are referred to as nouns, forming one part of speech among the 9 parts of speech that exist in English. Still, as reminders, examples of nouns are matter, talking of names of people. Then we have lions, talking of names of animals. London, talking of names of places. Then we have buckets, representing names of objects. Then yesterday, representing names of times. Then marriage, representing names of concepts. Happiness, anger, representing names of ideas. And so these are examples of nouns. And now, starting the lesson proper, nouns are classified into 2 basic types. We have 2 basic types of noun. Then among these basic types, one of them is further divided into 10 subtypes. So at the end of the day, we actually have 12 types of nouns. 12 types of nouns, 2 basic types, and 10 subtypes under one of the basic types. But then, what are the 2 basic types of noun? They are proper nouns and common nouns. Proper nouns and common nouns. So the 2 basic types of nouns are proper nouns and common nouns. Then what are the 10 subtypes? What are the 10 subtypes of nouns that exist, and which of the basic types has the 10 subtypes? And so let's make progress now as we identify them. Like you can see, common nouns are subdivided into 10 subtypes. So it is common nouns that we subdivide into 10 subtypes. And the 10 subtypes of common nouns are concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, countable nouns, also called count nouns, uncountable nouns, also called non-count nouns or mass nouns. Then we have verbal nouns, also called gerunds, denominator nouns, attributive nouns, compound nouns, and possessive nouns. And so the 10 subtypes of common nouns again are concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, countable nouns, uncountable nouns, verbal nouns, denominator nouns, attributive nouns, compound nouns, and possessive nouns. In all, the 12 types of nouns are proper nouns, common nouns, then concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, countable nouns, uncountable nouns, verbal nouns, denominator nouns, attributive nouns, compound nouns, and possessive nouns. And so I want to take note of this so that we can always be conscious of them. But then, what does each of them mean? What is the meaning of each type of nouns? And what are their examples? And so, we shall be looking at them one after the other so that we'll come to see the difference between them. And so, we'll come to the section meaning and examples of each type of nouns. Meaning and examples of each type of nouns. So let's kick off with the first one, talking of proper nouns. Proper nouns are specific individual names of persons, places, or things. So names of specific things instead of generalized things. Specific individual names of persons, places, or things are referred to as proper nouns. So the next time you hear of proper nouns, the first concept that should run in your mind is specific, individual. Yes, instead of generalized. Specific or individual. So proper nouns are specific individual names of persons, places, or things. Examples of proper nouns are Michael as a name of a specific person. Michael is a name of a specific person compared to boy. When you say boy, it's generalized names. It does not refer to a particular person. But when you say Michael, then Michael is a specific person. So that makes Michael a proper noun. But boy, girl, man, woman, they are not proper nouns because they are not specific. They refer to generalized persons. So that's that. Then we now go to Barcelona. Barcelona is a specific place, so it's a proper noun. Unlike maybe we say city. City is generalized. Unless you attach the name of the specific city, then you will not even know the city that is being talked about. So Barcelona is a specific place, unlike city that is generalized. And so Barcelona is a proper noun. Toyota Corolla is a specific car, so it's a proper noun. But when you say car is generalized, and so car will be common noun. Then December is a specific month of the year, so it's a proper noun. But when you say month is general, so it will be common noun. Friday is a specific day of the week, and so week common noun. But when you say Friday as a specific day in the week, then it will be a proper noun. Then the word day that is not specific is also a common noun. So Friday is a proper noun. River Niger is a proper noun. But when you just say river, then river is a common noun. But River Niger is specific river, and so it is a proper noun. Mount Everest is a specific mountain, and so it is a proper noun and not a common noun. But when you just say mountain without being specific, then it will be a common noun. Sun, as in the sun forming the central object in the solar system, is a proper noun. Yes, is a proper noun. In fact, names of planets, the planets that revolve around the sun, they are also proper nouns. And so we want to take note of this. Then we have extra point there. Note, proper nouns always start with capital letters anywhere they appear or we write them in sentences. So proper nouns in sentences, whether they appear at the beginning, they appear at the middle, or they appear at the end, they always start with capital letters or uppercase letters. That's a rule. We'll be having details of that when we have a class concentrating on proper nouns. Then we'll come to see the rule proper in practical demonstrations in sentences. And so that's that for that. We now make progress to the next concept now, talking of common nouns. Common nouns are the opposites of proper nouns. And so common nouns are non-specific or generalized. So instead of being individual, now generalized. So common nouns are non-specific or generalized names of persons, places, or things. So names that are general, names that are not specific, we refer to them as common nouns. Examples of common nouns are man. Man is not a specific name. Boy. Boy is not a specific name. Teacher. Teacher is not a specific name. Stadium. Stadium is not a specific name. Moon is not specific. Moon as a word. But if we are referring to the moon in the solar system, then that's the moon feeding the earth. That is a specific moon. But moon as a word is not specific because we have many moons in the universe. Yes. Then the word continent is not specific. But when you say Africa as a continent is specific. But continent as a play word is not specific. Food is also non-specific. And so man, boy, teacher, stadium, moon, continent, woman, then car, vehicle, book, calculator, board, wardrobe, fan, house, building, they are all common nouns because they are not specific. Then we also have extra information there. Common nouns always start with small letters. That's the opposite of proper noun. Proper nouns. Common nouns always start with small letters in any position in sentences, except at the beginning of sentences where they start with capital letters. So we want to take note of the fact that when writing common nouns in sentences, they always start with small letters. That's lowercase letters. But when they are appearing at the beginning of sentences, when they start the sentences, then they start with capital letters. So the only position in sentences where common nouns can start with a capital letter is at the beginning. In other positions, they start with small letters. Unlike proper nouns, they always start with capital letters in any position, whether at the beginning, middle, or at the end. And so we want to take note of all of that. Then we now come to concrete nouns as the first type of common nouns, as the first subtype of common nouns. And so a concrete noun is a noun that names a material or tangible object. Substances that are material or tangible. Yes, that is something recognizable through the senses. So anything you can recognize through the senses, not necessarily detect. You can recognize it. It exists as a tangible object. We refer to them as, their names are called concrete nouns. We refer to them as concrete nouns. Examples of concrete nouns are egg. Egg is a material object. You can say it is tangible. Then we have pot. Pot is a material object. Fish is a material object. Table is a material object. Then kitchen is a material object. And so egg, pot, fish, table, kitchen, they are material objects or substances. And so they are referred to as concrete nouns. Concrete nouns. And so names of things that are material, that they exist as objects, you can touch them, you can see them, they are concrete now. Concrete means material and tangible, it exists. Yes, compared to something like happiness. Happiness is not material, it's not an object. You can only feel it, but you cannot see it as a tangible object. So that's what we're talking about. So names of tangible or material substances or objects are referred to as concrete nouns. And in the list, we have things like egg, pot, fish, table, kitchen, book, calculator, fan, wardrobe, and so many others. And so we want to take note of these. Then we now come to abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are the opposites of concrete nouns. So abstract nouns are nouns that are names of immaterial or intangible things like ideas, qualities or concepts. Yes, things that are not materials. Instead, they only exist in the form of qualities. Yes, ideas or maybe concepts. You don't see them as objects. They are not material. They are not tangible. So names of things like this are called the abstract nouns. Examples of abstract nouns are freedom. Freedom is not an object, it's not material. Instead, it's a concept. Happiness, luxury, hatred, love, emotion. These things, you cannot touch them. They are not material things. Instead, they are qualities. And so, names of qualities are abstract nouns, whereas names of objects are concrete nouns. So, names of qualities, ideas, or concepts are referred to as abstract nouns. And so, we want to take note of all of these. Then we now come to collective nouns. Collective nouns are nouns that refer to groups of individuals or items. Yes, groups of individuals or items. So group of things, names that represent group of things, we call them collective nouns. Examples of collective nouns are team. Team refers to group of players, so you can see that it's a collective noun. Committee, yes, group of persons looking into an issue, that's also a collective noun. Family, group of persons related by blood, that's a collective noun as well. Heap is a collective noun for sand particles packed together, so is a collective noun. Congregation is a group of church members in the same church, and so you can see that is a name for a group of things, and talking of persons attending the same church. Then we have stationery as a name for a group of writing materials. Yes, a collection of writing materials. And so these are examples of collective nouns. We now make progress now to countable nouns. Countable nouns. Countable nouns, also called count nouns, are nouns that can be counted. So names of things that can be counted, we refer to them as countable nouns. Countable nouns are names of things that can be counted. Nouns that can be counted, as in you can count them as 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we refer to them as countable nouns. Examples of countable nouns are bag. You can count bag. 1 bag, 2 bags, 3 bags, 4 bags. Biro, ruler, chair, house in the form of building. Yes, these things can be counted, and so they are countable nouns. These nouns usually have singular and plural forms. Yes, because they can be counted, they exist as countable and plural nouns. Yes, we have singular form of them and also a plural form of them. Yes, for example, we have 1 chair, 2 chairs. Chairs singular, chairs plural. We have 1 house, 2 houses or many houses. The first singular, that's house, then the other plural, that's houses. So they exist as singular and plural and plurals. And so we want to take note of that. And so we now come to the opposite of countable nouns, talking of uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns, also called non-count nouns or mass nouns. Instead that you call them non-count nouns or mass nouns as alternative expressions. And so uncountable nouns are nouns that cannot be counted, but instead can only be measured. So names of things you cannot count, but instead you can only measure them. Such names are called uncountable nouns. We call them uncountable nouns. Examples of uncountable nouns are oil. You cannot count oil. There's nothing like 1 oil, 2 oils, 3 oils. You can only count oils in terms of types. For example, vegetable oil, palm oil, crude oil, olive oil. So we can only have types of oils. Then it will not be, you are counting them in the form of vegetable oil, olive oil, crude oil. But when it comes to counting in terms of amount, we don't count them. Instead, we only measure them. And so oil can only be measured. It cannot be counted. Water can only be measured. Rice, you cannot count rice because it's abnormal to be counting grains of rice. Yes. And so we only measure rice, we measure beans, we measure weight, we don't count weight. And so examples of uncountable nouns are oil, water, rice, beans, weight, drink like beer, beverages. Yes, we cannot count these things, and so they are uncountable nouns. These nouns exist commonly in a singular form. We usually have the singular form of them. We take them as singular. Yes, for example, rice is expensive. You cannot say rices are expensive. So we usually have plural form of them. They exist, singular form of them rather. Sorry for that. They exist commonly in the singular form. And so we express them, we take them as singular in sentences. But we have their plural form. Their plural form is derived using their scales of measurement. For example, you don't say 2 rices. Instead, you say 2 cups of rice. So you are using the scale of measurement to form the plural fraction. 2 cups of rice. For example, you don't say bloods are expensive in the hospital. No, you can only say pints of bloods are expensive. You are using the scale of measurement. The scale of measurement for blood in the hospital practice is pints of blood. And so that's what we're talking about. All of that will come up in details as we concentrate on countable and uncountable nouns as a topic of its own that will come up somewhere in the future. And so let's make progress to the next. Talking of verbal nouns. What do we mean by verbal nouns? Verbal nouns are also called gerunds. Let's archive that first. They are also called gerunds. But then, what do they mean? Verbal nouns, like the name suggests, are nouns that are derived from a verb, usually by adding the ing suffix. Yes. So when you have a verb and you add ing to the verb to form another word which acts as a noun in a sentence, then the noun is a verbal noun because it's derived from a verb. Examples of gerunds are running. The word run, R-O-U-N, is a verb. But if you add ing to form running, it becomes a name of an activity in the form of a sport. Yes, a name of a type of sport. And so running now becomes a noun because it's not acting as a name of a type of exercise. And so that is a verbal noun because it's not a name. Yes, that's that for that. Then see, the word see, S-E-E, is a verb. But when you now add ing, it becomes seen, which is an act to view. Then it becomes a noun in that context. Wash is a verb, but if you add ing, it becomes washing, and it now names an activity, as in to tidy up something, to clean something. And so again, we have cook. Cook is a verb, but when you add ing, it becomes cooking, naming an adventure, that is to cook food. Yes, the adventure of cooking food. So that's that for that. In fact, there are verbs which are acting as nouns in subject, in a subject or an object position in sentences. Remember, even in the ing form, they can still act as verbs in the tense we call continuous tense. Yes, but when you position them in subject or object position in sentences, they act as noun to name things. Yes. For example, I am running. That running is a verb because it's describing an action. You are running. But if I now change it for it to take the object position, it becomes running is an exercise. So in that case, it is acting as a subject and is a noun because it's a name of a type of exercise or sport. And so the second one is the verbal noun, while the first one is just a verb. And so that's what we're talking about. We can still have verbal noun as an object in a sentence. For example, he hates running. He hates running. And so in that context, it's not an action but a name of an exercise, and so it becomes a verbal noun in that context. So I want to take note of all of this so that it adds to our experience. And so that's that for that. Then we now come to denominator nouns. Denominator nouns. Denominator nouns are nouns that are formed from another noun. Yes, nouns that are formed from another noun. Nominalization as a concept in English has to do with adding suffixes to words to form other words. And so when you have a noun and you add a suffix, then it now converts the noun to another noun. That new noun form is called a denominator noun. So a denominator noun is a noun formed from another noun by adding an appropriate suffix. Yes, that's it. Take for example, we have the word guitar. Guitar is a name of a musical instrument. Yes, but so being a name of a musical instrument is a noun of its own. But if you now add ist as a suffix, then it becomes guitarist. And guitarist is a name of another concept, a name of a person that plays guitar. And so that's another noun entirely. So guitarist is a noun formed from guitar by adding ist. And so because it's derived from another noun entirely, talking of guitar, then guitarist is a denominator noun. Then we have another one, spoon. Spoon is a noun as a name of an object. But if I now add the suffix ful, it becomes spoonful. Spoonful is also a noun of its own. And so spoonful is derived from spoon, is a noun of its own, derived from another noun, spoon. So that makes it a denominator noun. And so we want to take note of that. And so we make progress to the next one, talking of attributive nouns. Attributive nouns are nouns that serve as qualifiers or modifiers in front of another noun. Yes. So when you have a noun placed before another noun to act as an adjective, to modify another adjective, then it will be attributive nouns. So attributive nouns are nouns that serve as qualifiers or modifiers to another nouns. Normally they are placed behind. Yes, they are placed behind, and they will now modify the other noun. We have some example here. We have nursery school. Ordinarily, school is a noun. School is a noun as academic institution, name of an academic institution. Nursery is also a noun, a cadre of school, a level of school is a noun of its own, a level of school. So when you now place nursery behind school, it will be qualifying the school, it will be describing the school, it's acting as an adjective to school. And so that nursery, a noun of its own, helping to describe another noun, school, is called attributive noun. We have another example, birthday party. Birthday is a noun of its own. Then party is a noun of its own. And so placing birthday behind party is serving to qualify the party as an adjective, is acting as an adjective to describe the party. And so that makes birthday a denominator noun to the party. And so that's that for that. So nouns that stay behind other nouns to describe them in sentences, we refer to them as denominator nouns. Then we now come to the next one, compound nouns. Compound nouns are nouns that are made of two or more words that can exist separately. So nouns containing two or more words, and each of these words can exist on its own independently, we call them compound noun. Compound is gotten from combining, containing two or more. Examples of compound noun are headmaster. Head is a word of its own. Master is a word of its own. So when you join the two to form a single word, headmaster, as a noun, it will be a compound noun because it's containing words that can exist separately. Then we have tennis shoe. Tennis shoe. Tennis is a word of its own. Shoe is a word of its own. So when you combine the two to form tennis shoe, representing one concept, it will be a compound noun. Then father-in-law. Father is a word of its own. In is a word of its own. Then law is a word of its own. So bringing them together to form father-in-law make the combination a compound noun. Compound noun is a topic of its own that will come up in the future. Then we'll learn of the various ways, the rules with which we derive compound nouns, resulting in different setting of combinations, like you can see in these examples. One joined together directly, then the other they are staying as separate words, and the others we are having hyphen joining them together. So what are the rules that determine the various settings of combination? We'll learn it when we come under compound nouns as an independent topic of its own. And so let's make progress now to the next one, talking of possessive nouns. Possessive nouns are nouns that show ownership of something by carrying an apostrophe and x or only apostrophe at their ends. And so nouns that show ownership of something, possession of something, by carrying only apostrophe or both apostrophe and letter s at the end, we refer to them as possessive nouns. Examples of possessive nouns are John's, you can see apostrophe s at the end. Then James, you can see only apostrophe at the end. Jesus, you can see only apostrophe at the end. Girls, you can see apostrophe s at the end. Girls, as in plural girls, now you can see only apostrophe, and so many others. The rules with which we derive the setting of the possessive noun, as in it's going to be only apostrophe or both apostrophe and s, will come up when we look at possessive nouns as an independent topic somewhere in the future. And so possessive nouns are commonly created with the addition of an apostrophe and s, or an apostrophe, that's only an apostrophe at the end of a noun. So the details of these will come up when we have the lesson as an independent topic in future lesson series. And so that's that for that. So we now come to the section functions of nouns. Functions of nouns. So what are the functions now perform in sentences? We want to quickly review them so that we'll become conversant with them. Nouns perform various functions in sentences. We have many functions that now perform, but at this case we'll look at just three of the functions. And so that's why you have it there that three of the functions they perform are: one, they function as subjects in sentences. And when we say subject, we mean doers of actions in sentences, the things performing actions in sentences, and they usually appear at the beginning of sentences. We have some examples here. Amadi is a doctor. So you can see that Amadi is starting the sentence. Is the sentence element being described? Yes, although an action is actually not being performed here, but is the element being described and is occupying the first position in the sentence. So first position in sentences in most cases are usually subject position, and nouns occupy such position. Then the next one, Mary performed a surgical operation today. So Mary is acting, is performing an action, and so that's the subject of the sentence. And so Mary is a noun, is a noun performing subject, acting as a subject in the second sentence. Then Amandi is also a noun acting as the subject in the first sentence. And so nouns function as subjects in sentences. That's one function, so we want to take note of that. The second function is they function as objects in sentences. Object is the receiver of action. Yes, the receiver of action in sentences. So that sentence element receiving the action, the verb, is what we refer to as objects. And nouns usually are objects in sentences. For example, the dog ate bread. The dog ate bread. Ate is the action. So what's receiving the action is the bread. So that bread is a noun and is performing the function of an object in the sentence. Then Susan says cosmetics. So you can see that cosmetics is receiving the action, that sell. Yes, it's acting as object in the sentence. And it's a noun. Yes, talking of name representing materials we use on our body. And so Susan says cosmetics, and the cosmetics is receiving the action, which is sell, and is an object in the sentence. And so in summary again, nouns function as objects in sentences, and so we want to take note of that. Then lastly, we have the third function now. They function as adjectives. That means they can stay behind other nouns to qualify them in sentences or maybe after. And so we have some examples here. He is a police detective. Police in the sentence is a noun. Detective is also a noun. And so the police is describing the detective order. It's modifying, it's qualifying it. And so a noun is acting as an adjective to modify another noun. And so you can see that it's acting as an adjective, showing that nouns actually can act as adjectives in sentences. The second sentence says the university librarian is here. And so if you check, university is a noun of its own, librarian is a noun of its own. And so when you now put university behind librarian to modify it, to qualify it, then the university is acting as an adjective, modifying or describing the librarian. And so the fact that university is a noun is indeed acting as an adjective in the sentence. So in summary, at this level, the functions of nouns in sentences are: they act as subjects in sentences, that is, doer of actions or a sentence element being described in sentences. Then secondly, they act as objects in sentences, that is, receiver of actions in sentences, and they usually appear as the last sentence element in that context. And thirdly, they function as adjective, where they stay behind other nouns to describe them further. And so we want to take note of that. So they function as subjects, they function as objects, and they function as adjective in sentences. And so that's the size of this lesson series. On the evaluation stage, you are recommended to log on to the CBT that has been published to drill you on the lesson, so that it will help to sink the point down and they will remain with you permanently. I'll see you in the next lesson series. Let's make time together to learn something new on a different subject platform.